And we're live.
We're live, and welcome 2015, our first ACCE Learning Network Hangout. And hi, Amanda.
G'day, Roland. How are you?
This is a place we can connect and meet with our PLN, share learning and teaching adventures.
And as usual, if you're watching us live, you can post a question to our panel by going to todaysmeet.com/ACCELN, or on Twitter you can use the hashtag ACCELN, or maybe you want to add the comments to the Google Plus page, because, you know, we like multitasking.
We're really good at this sort of thing. And I'd like to welcome everybody to here. I'm actually beaming down from the USS Enterprise, of course, a high school teacher, e-learning leader in Victoria, Australia. Sorry, that's the wrong tagline there. And I'm a member of the DLTV. We've got an exciting year we're planning, and I've got a really busy time. At the moment, my kids have made it onto the Scout Gang Show, Amanda. They've
Yay!
gone through the middle of the auditions. It's really exciting for them, breaking out in song. It's one of the biggest amateur theatre productions in Australia, apparently. They've been learning their different roles, and it fortunately takes up Monday evening. So what's going to be happening is that I'll be driving around like a mad taxi driver from one end of Melbourne to the other, and we're a big city, so I'll be hoping to make do with maybe changing the show schedule. We've got some ideas that we've been working on, and I will have some Mondays free, but we're exploring using maybe Saturdays for Saturday morning slots for being able to bring in some US guests. So
Yeah,
some
we did
exciting happening planned.
Yeah, we did a few of those early morning sessions last year, and some people said they were fabulous. So that's really good, and gives us a different time zone to play with as well.
That's right.
I'm
Hi, Amanda. Go. I'll throw it to you.
I'm Amanda Rablin. I'm an e-learning coordinator and digital technologies teacher and QSide member in Queensland, Australia. I thought today I would be very confusing, and rather than wearing my black and blue striped dress, I would wear one with white and gold as well, just to keep, you know, people all happy. Actually, I was really disappointed because I did see it as white and gold, and I really like the opportunity to see things in blue. Anyway, tonight's discussion is going to be... You missed the dress. Oh, Roland.
How could he miss that?
He was too busy reliving all of the wonderful Spock moments in his life, I'm sure. Yeah. So a bit of an informal discussion this evening, and Roland and I will actually be sharing some of the things that we have been doing as well, which is very exciting and unusual. So we'll interview ourselves a little bit as well. But we're joined by two lovely guests this evening. We have Bruce. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Everyone, Bruce Tudor. I'm Director of IT at Gungahlin College in Canberra, and I am teaching the digital technologies at the senior secondary level, and I'm excited to share some of what we've been doing with you guys tonight.
Yay, awesome. And on the other side of Australia to me, we have Michael. How you going, Michael?
Yeah, good, thanks. This year I'm working as an ICT integrator at Iona Primary School. So it's a new role for the school, and it's looking very busy and very exciting.
I'm sure you'll have lots of fun and make lots of change in those teachers' lives for the better, of course, connecting them to a whole new world.
I'd like to think that is for the better.
No pressure. Yep. No, we wish you all the best with that new adventure. It's going to be fun. So I thought maybe as we enjoy a bit of our general conversation this evening, that we'd start with Roland, because he's got a really exciting project that he's actually been working on at the moment, and show and tell. I have show and tell as well, but yours is really fascinating.
I have. I'll actually switch the camera because I'd like to show you some of the things that we have been doing here. And it started off with a simple idea. I've worked before with VicRoads on a couple of projects by getting some engineers into the school, and that kind of relates a little bit to my STEM background, and get engineers into schools and to look at ways of making real-world connections to the kind of things that are happening. So what I was keen to do was to do something that was a bit more engaging, a bit more hands-on. We have done some bridge building. As you know, I've done a creative dance. Well, this is something a little different. we decided that we'd have a look at the autonomous vehicle technology, and I'm about to switch screens, and I'll take you for a bit of a look at a s05e. And I'll toss the link into the side here. So, and if you could toss this out for the Twitter post, this is the, here we go. Oh, wrong one. So this is the, okay. This is the link I'm actually looking at the moment. If anybody likes to have a bit of a browse, it's a s05e about where I'm up to with this project. Now, we're still early days yet. I'm keen to just see how our funding goes and to get some partner schools involved. The project is, in fact, to build an autonomous car. I don't even know how it can be done. I believe it can be done. I remember ringing up Bruce one day in the freeway and said, "Do you reckon I could help pull this off?" And he said, "Doesn't sound too hard, mate." So I'm running ahead with this, looking at using some Arduino control devices. Okay, I'm ready to go. So I'm about to switch screens. Screen sharing now.
Nope. Try again. Wait. Looks like it's about to start. Yay.
Okay, and this is Russell. He's the chap from a group called Dynamic Connections, and he's worked with me on a number of these projects, bringing engineers and people into the actual school. Now, this is not related to the project, but I like this one. I'm going to stick it in here. This happens to be a room where I learned to program BASIC on a PDP-11. I also learned some Pascal and some Fortran and COBOL. The room's gone, and so have the old Tektronix terminals. They're a little bit like those green whizzy things you saw in the original Battlestar Galactica. Anyway, they're now full of robots and 3D printers and controllers. It's awesome. That's even cooler than the stuff that we worked with. So it's kind of nice that my old programming place is there. Anyway, Paula Christopherson was talking here in Victoria about algorithms are really beginning to kick in, and it's been a big theme of what's happening at the DLTV. And I'm keen to look at perhaps bringing some of the makerspace technology into that picture too. There's Russell again. Now, Russell and I, you can see in the screen, are actually playing with this little bits technology. I'll show you what they are like in a moment. But they're little connecting things you can kind of click and play with, and they're a lot of fun. And I bought one of these kits, and I'm keen to actually use it to help program this car. I'll move down and show you a bit more. So I had access to a laser cutter, and this was just like giving me hands-on access to a lightsaber. It was freaking awesome.
And when you were using it, did you say laser?
Oh,
That's
laser,
important.
yeah. Shark. I wanted to do a shark. I don't know why. I had a sudden urge to make a shark. I made a shark with lasers. It was fun. Amanda, all you do is you do a drawing like that, and the software's smart enough to work out what's to be cut and what isn't. You work out with some mathematics how you're burning through and some formulas and a bit of black magic. But basically, it's a printer. I have my laptop to one side, and you can see a chap who's doing the actual filming there. His name is Holger. He was fantastic. Runs a place called Space Tank Studio. And we've had him on the show before.
Yeah,
and,
that's awesome.
Allowed me to use this, and it really was awesome. And here we are. This is a video, and I'm explaining here with Holger how I'm going to cut this balsa wood into the prototypes that you can see here. And those prototypes were how we did the testing. I used balsa wood till I got it right, and he had even some better wood to use. You can see my laptop kind of connected up to this printer and doing it. So he was acting as my technical go-between, realizing something. I was able to make this. Now, if I was to use a Stanley knife, I'd be there for maybe a week carving this thing away or getting it right. But because I had this laser printer, I could try something out, and after 5 minutes, no, I've got to make this smaller. I've got to make this bigger. And you may not see it so clearly on those models there, but I was actually able to work out different ways of cutting it to try and make it big enough to hold the electronic circuitry. Actually, you'll laugh when you actually see the model. I would show you here. This is Phil Brown. He's been on the group before. Some of the partners and the groups I'm getting involved with. And also, I've been involving Magnet, and I've had some fun also getting it. Now, that's what the final model looks like. I'll whip it out to you in its full 3D glory. So just turn off the screen save here, and you have a chance to see what this actually looks like. Okay, here I am again. So here are my prototypes, and they really were terrible. Things didn't quite fit. They fitted well on the screen, but as it was, bits dropped off, the bolts would cracked. Oh, something just dropped off there and there. But it looks fantastic when we had a chance to do it properly. And I had made a chance to modify the design by cutting it out here. This is what my final model looks like. And it's a little hot rod.
That's so
I know the
cute.
wheels don't quite line up with the arches, but we had to get the drivetrain right, and that was a really tricky problem. It took me a couple of hours on the weekend just to get it working. It's only a prototype. The idea was that I can actually now have the little bits circuitry here. There's the motor.
Yeah.
And inside I've got a battery. This is a very simple prototype. I've got a circuit here that allows me to connect things up, and by turning it on here, you probably can't see it, but it's a front wheel drive, of course, and you can see the front wheels working there. Now, it's a prototype. We're just simply testing the ability to go through this whole process. I'm beginning to think now that there may be more merit in actually taking an existing model car and gutting it and then putting the Arduino controller in it. I'll show you the little bits technology and how that actually works. This is the idea. And the way the little bits actually works is that I can take a circuit like here and just snap together the components. It uses here superconducting magnets. It uses magnets to actually allow the components to click together. So I've got here a variable resistor, click, snap it in. I've got here a speaker, click, snap it in. No, it doesn't fit. And that's the nice thing about it. Because it uses those magnets to hold it apart, I can actually do the electronics by turning it around and snapping it the other way. Things only click the way they're meant to click. So I've got here a magnet.
So no exploding capacitors or anything like that?
Well, they're there. And it doesn't hide them. They're still part of the circuitry. But I can just click this thing together. And it's quite sophisticated.
Just get them on the right way.
I can now turn this on, ramp up, and you can hear my variable resistor changing the sound.
Cool.
And if I wanted to, and this is what my kids at school thought was really cool, I can even find there's a circuit here for an inverter. No, I don't need the inverter. What's this one here? The Arduino controller. Oh no, pulse. Here we go. This is a pulse unit here. So I can click the pulse unit in, snap it together, and I've got flashing neon lights. Snap it in, and now you can see I've got my own.
Ooh.
So not only can I make a car, I can make a car that actually makes noises and have a flashing blue light, which my kids at school thought was really awesome if I stick in the bottom of the car.
So it can play doof doof and move as well.
The project, though, is to make an autonomous vehicle. So I'm thinking of putting in sensory input, an Arduino controller, and being able to control it with the phone. Anyway, that's the ideas. There's a lot more scope, and I need to scope this out as a project. It looks like a lot of fun, and we're hoping to have something ready for a conference in 2016. So I don't want to give too many secrets away, but I'd be happy to answer some questions.
What conference would you be hoping to present at?
Well, there's a big conference that's coming in Australia. It'll be, just get the details right here. The conference is being hosted by a group called, here we go, ITS Australia, Intelligent Transport Systems, and they're keen to exploit some of the expertise we have in Australia for being able to build smart devices, vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle infrastructure type control systems. This is big. Australia made more money selling cochlear ears than it did selling vehicles overseas last year. So I think there's huge potential for us to look at branching into this area, and I think even more so, because I can't set the engineering imperatives for our country, is to actually engage kids with what's a real world problem, how to build smarts in the vehicles. They're going to be of an age where they won't just be playing with their smartphones, hopefully not in the car, they'll be having to be part of the smart vehicle design systems, which will make it easier and safer for them to get around. Anyway, that's just where I'm coming from. So I hope you like my car. Happy to answer any questions.
So how involved have the students been in the project so far?
Just help me find the bigger bits of Lego. And once I get the prototype, I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some funding and be able to run this trial. I'm looking at possibly 10 schools around Australia that can help me with actually piloting a challenge or a competition.
So would they have to design and build their own cars completely and use the same kind of kit as what you've got?
I don't want to reinvent the wheel, which is why I'm kind of thinking that although it was fun to laser cut, it made more sense to actually take an existing vehicle and gut it. There are some around that I could use. And for me, the emphasis is on that problem solving for putting the control system in the car. And I don't quite know how to get there. This is my moonshot, but I'm hoping that we can come ways forward. What do you think, Bruce? I'd really respect your thoughts on this.
I was just thinking, we have a very strong mechatronics program at our school, and so these are students who do a lot of work on aerodynamics and the design of aircraft and vehicles and stuff like that. So they're actually looking at a lot of the design aspects and the physics involved in all of those kinds of things as part of their regular Year 11 and 12 study, which I think is awesome. So there may even be opportunities for collaboration there where they focus on the aerodynamics and the challenges associated with that part of the design while your guys are coming up with the intelligence. And at the same time, we've got our IT students who'd be very, very keen, I think, to look at some of that AI sort of thing, because later on this semester we're actually doing a project where students are looking at the application of interesting computer science concepts and algorithms, and one of the things I imagine some of them will look at is some of this autonomous driving or machine learning that allows vehicles to draw conclusions about the environment that they're in and make appropriate decisions. I mean, it's very, very much moonshot because we're talking about tight timeframes with these kids, but I guess, you know, we've got the luxury with the flexibility down here for a student to basically devote an entire semester of study, 4 hours a week plus anything they want to put in outside of class time to get something like this done. I think it's awesome, and there are so many opportunities for collaboration.
And there would be a lot of algorithms on travelling in circles there in Canberra as well.
Oh, yes, there would.
Sorry, just being cheeky.
I know.
You're right, Bruce. I mean, as I saw it, there were kind of 4 tiers. The first step is to model, and that was what I'd kind of gone through that process of making my own first little model car. I mean, I've played with Lego before, but I'm building it from first principles. Second stage, which is where I'm at now, is to actually make it move. The third stage is to make it think, and that's a tough one. And I don't know how I've been on that journey. I've played a little bit the Arduino controllers, but I've never actually tried to control a device like this before. And then lastly, I guess, would be to make it learn. It's a moonshot. I don't know how it's going to go. I'd love to think that we'd be able to program it, that we can actually program an Arduino chip to actually do this kind of thing, and that I can scaffold this in a way that makes it into a challenge that kids can pick up with and run and learn about programming and algorithms and problem solving. So love to have anyone who's listening in join me on the journey. But I've only got some limited places for this year, and hopefully opening it up next year to other interested people. If you're looking for something for Christmas, the Little Bits Deluxe kits are the ones to go for with the Arduino controller. It's a
or Easter or Mother's Day, just saying.
You can, I should put that disclaimer, I don't have any shares in the Little Bit stuff, but what's really cute about it is that it's a prototyping environment. You can click and play and you can't go wrong, and snap it apart and put it back in the box. If you are a Puritan, you can actually buy the components much cheaper yourself and solder it together, but then you've got to get it right. And I think that was my reluctance of doing some of this stuff, was feeling comfortable about allowing students to play with electronics, whereas when we've done it, we've said, make this, and if it doesn't work, then you didn't make it like I did. What's lovely with this prototype environment is that you can play around with it and make what you think will work and see what it does, and if it doesn't, modify it, and you don't have to break soldering connections. You can sort of play with it, much like building a house out of Lego. No one really designs to live in it, but you get a chance to play with your ideas and see what you can do before you start hitting the hammer and nails.
So I guess the laser cutting experience as well kind of sped up that prototyping process for you. So if students did have access to something like that, they could probably look at the aerodynamics and the design and things like that as well.
Amanda,
or 3D print something.
that laser cutting really scales well. Once a group gives us a design, we can cut it out. But I'm thinking even that we can supply the wheels and the actual car body. We maybe even for the private schools provide the little bits componentry. And what we're asking you to do is put the students together and the problem solving as well as the meeting and the hangouts. Ultimately, we're looking at building a challenge that we can then launch at other schools. I'm trying to build in some of that maker culture where we can build stuff, but I don't want to have everyone bogged down at stage one. Let's build a model and let's find something that's round, uses a wheel, and that's, and like, I spent all of Sunday working at a drive shaft, how to make the drive from a little tiny motor turn 90 degrees, which was actually a little harder than I originally thought. There's all sorts of considerations. So I'm sure that the Holden and Ford have all worked out years ago. Stuck on that second stage. I would like to move kids up to that thinking and learning level, and that's the tough stuff, and that's what I'm hoping that people like Bruce might be able to give me a hand with.
Well, I think it's really, really simple to come up with some sort of template programs that'll do a lot of the basic kind of responding to the environment type stuff that an autonomous car would need. And I think for students that are at that sort of second level where you're starting to look into, or the third level where you're starting to look into that, providing them with a starter kit that deals with perhaps a very, very simple oval track or something that only turns in the one direction would be a nice way to introduce it. And then you start introducing levels where there are perhaps cross intersections, and so you have to avoid collisions after you can turn in two directions, and you know, the ability to perhaps correct yourself when you turn down the wrong path and end up at a dead end. And the next level up is then that learning element where ultimately it's a bit more of a kind of maze environment, and through trial and error, the car eventually comes up with an optimal path through that maze, and then is able to navigate that maze and any other maze that you might put it in over time. So that gives you the ability then to scale that in terms of difficulty to, you know, start off with a maze that maybe has one dead end and one correct path through, and then come up with much, much more complex ones. In fact, you could even see if you could, another challenge might be to, once you have the winning car, to design a maze that tricks the winning car such that it can't come up with an ultimate, an ideal path through the maze. You know, there's that side of things, I think, too, where the idea is to sort of sabotage the best efforts of the people who can come up with it. I think, you know, all of those are the kinds of options that ultimately you could look at, and there'd definitely be ways that all of that could be done.
So it's different to the way I've done things in the past. I'm keen to sort of crowdsource some ideas in this project design, and I don't want to turn it into a competition. It's a journey I like to take students on, and it is a moonshot, and open to all your suggestions. You've given me some good ones here. I can see a figure-8 track now, where the first step is just a collision avoidance before you enter an intersection. This is very different to the solar car challenge, where something clunks along on its own steam. This is more like a thinking car challenge. Thank you, Bruce.
Hey Bruce, what's been happening inside your classrooms recently? How are you going with your digital tech adventures?
All right, well, we've got the luxury down here in Canberra, for those that don't know, where our curriculum is all developed by teachers at the school level, and although we have in the senior secondary space a number of courses we need to teach within, they're defined to be quite broad, and all of our assessment is ongoing. So there's no HSC exam at the end. It's a little
Bruce,
so
I think you're...
what we decided to do...
I think your
is this better?
connection is dropping in and out. So we got to hear you as a Dalek, which is always entertaining, but you might need to tell us a little bit, repeat a little bit more. Fabulous. We can't see your lovely faces clearly, but we'll be able to hear your voice better.
Okay, cool. Well, it's strange. This is the NBN, you see. Anyway, what we here we go. Let's see if that helps things. So, yeah, I was saying that what we decided to do was try and come up with a way that allowed students to choose the IT units they wanted to study, rather than us telling them what it was they were supposed to do. And what we've decided to do, and the way we've set the classroom up, is, let's see, I've never done a screen share, but let's do that.
I'll go for it.
This is what I want here. All right, how's that?
Currently black. Nope, it's there. All good.
It's there? Excellent. Yeah. Okay, so this article here, which we've published on our blog, and I can send the link out a little bit later on, gives you a bit of a look at the classroom space that we're working in. So you can see we've eliminated that central whiteboard point. There's no interactive whiteboard in our classroom, and that's intentional. And all of the chairs are grouped around these 4 big screens. There's 3 in the picture, there's another one off to the left, and these 3 very large round tables as well. So students will come in, all of the TVs have wireless projection capability, so regardless of what device you're using, you can throw your screen up, and we've got that open to all of the students, so they don't have to get approval or enter passwords or anything like that. They just select the TV they want to work on, throw their device up, and off they go. And what it allows us to do is get students to work in groups around the unit or subject that they're interested in. So in one of our classes, we've got students spread across what amounts to 7 different accessible units in the course. So we have students doing some advanced programming, some beginner programming, some games development, some digital media type work, some advanced web development, and they're doing it at 2 levels. So some students are doing it in terms of the like getting an ATAR, and other students are just in it for a Year 12 certificate, and they're looking to go on and do some vocational training or whatever. So they have different needs and different demands in terms of the way we set up the assessment and the teaching materials for them. And this space allows us to utilize our learning management system and a multiple screen and collaborative grouping set up to ensure that not only are they encouraged to work together, but they can effectively do whatever it is they want to do. So it's really about personalization. It means that we can capture every student in the school who wants to do some IT, and that's been a really big thing for us. We've gone from an enrollment of about 110 students up to 154, and we're expecting that the number of students that we'll get next year might be enough to fill up the entire timetable, so that effectively IT is running all the time in that space, and anytime a student wants to come in and do IT studies, there's going to be a teacher there who's going to be around to help them. So it's
wow. Awesome.
Yeah, very, very different to the sort of traditional Year 11 and 12 IT curriculum you'd expect in most of the states around the place. But it gives us a high degree of flexibility in that ability to personalise learning significantly. And next year, after we've written the 9 units that we're offering this year, we'll write another 4 or 5. And the goal is that by 2017, students will be able to select any unit in the ACT curriculum at any time and construct a sequence of learning that they're really keen and interested about. So that's the start of it. We're also working alongside a whole heap of university graduates and employees in some big companies and startups around the country who are going to act as mentors for those students alongside their peers and us as teachers in the spaces. So it's really exciting. There's a lot going on, and I really would have liked an extra few weeks to prepare, but hey, you just do it as you go, because that's the fun. So
absolutely, living on the edge. So how have the students been responding to that so far?
It's been a bit of a shock to the Year 12s because we didn't do it this way last year, but a lot of them have sort of picked it up and run with it, which has been really, really good. Our Year 11s have turned up, and we've just sort of said to them, this is the way it is. A couple of parents have, sort of said, oh, we're not sure about this, but usually a discussion with them and explaining what we're aiming to achieve and the like has been enough to get them on side. So you'll notice there were no computers in there. Students all bring their own. Having the administrative capabilities over their machines means if they want to use a technology that would take a good month or two to get installed on the school computers, they just install it and off they go. So as a result, we're not teaching specific applications, we're teaching the skills and the knowledge that they can then utilize in any sort of application or environment that they want to. So we are platform agnostic, we are application agnostic. We do select things like specific programming languages to help with the materials and things like that. But once the kids get past the basics, if they want to do something in Xcode with Swift, they can. If they want to write their programs in Java, they can do that. So, quite a lot of options, and really it allows them to play to their strengths so that they're focusing on the stuff they don't know rather than struggling with things that are unfamiliar but are just rehashing existing knowledge.
So does that mean as a teacher you have to know more about the different options that the students are investigating or working with, or do you just go with the flow and apply strategies?
Across the three of us that are teaching, the three IT teachers that are teaching in that space, we have very different skills. I mean, I come from a computer science background and programming. One of our other teachers is a sort of games development type background, and another one's a web developer. So between the three of us, we've got a really good coverage of the required skill sets. The solution that we came up with was that rather than assigning teachers to classes, we spread ourselves out across the week so that every student sees every one of us at some point on the timetable. So we don't teach lines. We just have, we've sat down, we've worked out times that work for us so that we're doing the hours that we want to do, which means I tend to start early while one of the other guys starts later. We've got one of the girls has come back from maternity leave, so she does night school and one day so she can spend the other days at home. So, we've really
Where do I sign up to this plan? It's awesome.
We've decided to create a space that works for the teachers as well as the students, and the result has been that we know what the other teachers have prepared in terms of lesson materials. So I write 2 of the subjects, Edwin writes 2, and Julia writes 1. But and we're the point of contact for students who have questions about the material. But if you're in the classroom and you need some help, then you can call on whoever happens to be there at the time, and we'll work through that with you. So, there are advantages to knowing the material that you've put up and being on top of that. But what it's done is it's encouraging the students to work with one another. Don't go straight to the teacher. See if there's someone else who's worked out that problem sitting with you. Put the problem up on the screen and talk through it with a couple of your friends in the class. Don't go straight to the teacher all the time, and don't expect that the teacher is going to give you the answer straight away either. And so we look at providing things like online forums and collaboration opportunities through those kinds of platforms, video conferencing and the like, as an alternative to that traditional direct assistance from the teacher straight away. And it's it's encouraging students to become learners rather than coming to us for the answers. So I think it's win-win. It's a great environment to work in. It is crazy busy initially because you've got to be a good 2 weeks ahead in terms of your content, and you've got to know exactly where you're going, and you've got to be prepared for students to finish a week's worth of content in an hour and
Wow.
something else. So it's a really dynamic space to work in, and I find that I want to spend more time in the classroom than I'm technically scheduled on, because it's just such an exciting place to be in. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so has the structure of the learning place really put in place different styles of learning and teaching? You said there's no one front anymore, but there's multiple screens. Have students adapted to that quite easily?
Yeah, look, the only challenge we had with that was that the screens weren't there at the start of the year. So we began the year with nothing, no whiteboard, no interactive whiteboard, no screens. And so we got to the point where students were very much focusing on working on their own computer individually, and that wasn't ideal. We really wanted to get them collaborating from the start, and what we decided to do once the TVs came in was encourage students to use them as much as possible. The novelty of being able to just throw your screen up anywhere was actually a really good way to get them to familiarize themselves with the idea, but they're coming around. They're coming around. So we're finding that, you know, if we do want to encourage them to talk about problems, we just we get one of them to throw it up, we drag them over to a table, we start the discussion, and they tend to pick it up and run with it from there. So it hasn't been as smooth as we planned. We really wanted them there day one, so we could say, this is the way we work in this space. But unfortunately, that's that little bit of friction that came about from not having everything when we started. It hasn't been so much of a barrier that it's been difficult to overcome, but it definitely created a challenge for us at the start.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll get more and more used to it, and they'll be using it in unexpected and delightful ways into the future.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the big thing we like to highlight is the fact that that setup in that space costs less than an RWB. So, you know, we don't have lighting issues because the screens are really high quality. They're all full HD. You can plug anything into them, and we've got 4 working spaces. It's absolutely fantastic, and you know, I would never trade in what we've got for an IWB, because you know, this takes the emphasis away from the teacher, and that's really what we want in that space. If we want to direct teach, we still can. You know, we can go to the TV with the kids that need the assistance and throw it up, or we can go to a portable whiteboard that we've set up and we can sit around that and talk through a problem. And so, you know, those options are still there, but it means that it doesn't become the default teaching approach. It really does mean that we think carefully about how we prepare our materials, how the students are going to want to work with the material that we put up, and we really do think about that collaborative aspect as much as we can when we're planning for it. And it's been really good. You know, it's a buzzing hive of activity all the time, and students, they're pretty good with their volume. You know, we've got a science lab on one side, we've got the mechatronics lab on the other, and they're pretty good. There aren't any real complaints about the noise, so it works really well.
I'm glad to hear you saying about the large TVs. Last year, I taught a senior class using the Polycom system, which is a very large television like that with a high definition camera, and I was the one driving between campuses. And it was a good experience for me. I had a chance to work out the distance education model, perhaps. You did need to be organized. You needed ways of planning and scheduling, and there's some good tools like, I know you're using Schoology with your school for doing that. I found that the short throw projectors are really dim, hard to see against a standard whiteboard. This TV that I was using was brilliant. It was a good high definition. The kids could get up close to it. You didn't have to strain your eyes, and it brought the outside classroom in so much more easily than some of the other things I want to work with. Now, I think that some staff get a bit too comfortable with running movies on the big screen, but we're not about running movies, we're about doing engaging, articulating content, bringing communities in, and to do that you need the tools that you've got there. And it was good to see that you've catered for so many different devices. You mentioned iOS, Android, Windows. I was waiting for BIOS to also get mentioned, or Ubuntu. That's a ripper that you've done it. I presume that you've got a BYOD environment at the senior levels there, Bruce?
Yeah. Look, we've been encouraging that for a while now. Our wireless network has very, very high capacity. We're on a 10 gigabit backbone, and you know, we've got access points all over the place. So a test of our bandwidth through 600 devices on streaming YouTube concurrently, and I think we use 3% of the bandwidth. So, you know, there's no concern about that sort of thing at all at the place. We're very, very lucky that you know, the ACT government invested a lot of money in a really, really good wireless backbone for ACT schools, and that's been absolutely fantastic. So the fact that students do bring their own means that we've got support for all of those devices on the network. it is a shame that at the moment there's no kind of Linux equivalent of WiDi or Miracast or AirPlay, because those students currently can't use wireless projection. But as you can see, we've got tables around those TVs, so a lot of those students just plug in their device with VGA or HDMI, and they can project as well. They just can't do it quite as easily or seamlessly. There's just a little bit of cable stuffing around.
BYO dongle.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, and that's the thing. We encourage students to bring anything that they need with them. So if they can see that they'll want to project onto the TV at some point and they don't have a device that has one of those wireless technologies on it, they'll just bring a cable. And there are plenty of HDMI ports on the TVs. We ensured that there are at least 4, and HDMI ports on every device, and a VGA, and composite, and they've got plenty of options to hook them in.
Actually, I'm surprised how well those HDMI ports work. I thought I'd have to muck around with audio, but just plugging my little MacBook Air into a HDMI port, the thing damn well worked. Audio, video, everything, all down that one little bit of wire. That was nice.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and that's why I think that's why we like the AirPlay protocol, and the it is just so great, because for the kids who are on OS 10 or iOS, they can control volume from their computer as well, so they don't even have to touch the volume control on the TVs. You can wirelessly project your volume through the Apple TV and the HDMI there. So it's just an ideal arrangement, and the Apple TVs aren't even on the Wi-Fi. So you with the current version of iOS and the Apple TV, you literally just turn on the Bluetooth and turn on your Wi-Fi and connect. And Apple TVs are not even on the network. They have no knowledge of our networks in the school at all. So there's no need to worry about whether or not our network supports Apple TV. It's just not an issue for us. Everything that we use would cope perfectly well without the wireless network at the school. It's great. Well, I've taken up a lot of time. We should hear what Michael's doing as well.
Yeah, I'm curious too. He's got some sort of autonomous vehicle technology involving alien life, I think, in his hands.
No, that's a gold medal performance. You're hilarious. I wish we could see that prop.
Well, I can put the video on temporarily if you like.
I think we should.
Yay! I toast to your humour.
I thought my props were bad.
Oh, you just wait. Anyway, tell us about what you've been doing lately.
I've been busy. We're rolling out some pretty serious changes at our school this year. We're trying to roll it out gradually so as not to overwhelm people too much. For starters, ICT is no longer taught as a learning area, which is a bit of a shock for quite a few. It actually has to be integrated and reported as such, which is a learning curve. We're moving very slowly towards rolling out Google Apps for students, years 4 to 6. Currently trying to get staff on board with that before we bring it into class. And of course, after a request from the boss last year, we're rolling out kindergarten to year 6 blogging. And that has been quite an interesting little process. There's so much for a quiet year.
You said slow change, but it sounds like you're tackling quite a few things at once there.
Well, we were going to try and introduce a digital technologies curriculum as well until I pointed out that there was going to kill me. Next year. So I'm going to ISTE as well this year to present on blogging and global connections. So it's a pretty huge year.
Wow.
And I'd just actually like to see if I can get screen share working, if I can work out how to do it. I haven't done it in a very long time.
Go for it.
It's that green button thing.
Oh, that one. Okay, let's have a look. Because what I'd like to show you is our first blog posts from our year ones. Our year one, our early childhood teachers have really taken blogging to heart, which has been absolutely fantastic. They're actually sort of leading the school, which is a really positive sign for our year one teachers in particular. So we actually have a whole school blog. So my principal is learning how to blog alongside our staff, and we're in the process of we're in the process of setting up class blogs for all year levels. Currently, only the year ones are actually active. But what the beautiful thing was when this was actually our very first Iona blog post, and if you scroll down, we had our first comment within 2 minutes from a friend Miles Webb in New Zealand, which sort of gave the teacher a bit of a shock. And that
And what
night,
did the students think?
they went and looked up Taranaki on the Wikipedia. They're quite shocked that their work was being viewed by someone else on the other, around the world. I'm not sure if they've seen the rest of them yet. So we've got Tasmania, India, UK, and a couple of new ones from the United States and South Africa, including one of the parents as well.
Wow.
So it's sort of been a vindication, really, for what we are trying to do, particularly in upper primary, because the idea of publishing students' work online was a foreign concept when I turned up last year. At the end of last year, I rewrote the ICT policies, which made for some very interesting reading, considering how out of date they were. So we're sort of trying to introduce the concept of digital citizenship and online publishing this year. And it's really beautiful, to have the year ones, particularly the year one teachers. The year one teacher with the 12 comments on her post would freely admit she's not the most confident user of ICT, but to have a response like that has just been brilliant. Particularly because if she can do it, then some of the more able teachers don't really have an excuse to keep ignoring the the change in the way the technology works at the school. So
And
we're
I
getting.
guess it's testament to the fact that it's not just about knowing the ICT stuff. It's having those connections and that confidence to engage in conversation, and knowing how that conversation can unfold more so than well, how do I embed this and that, because you work out that as you go.
Well, that's the point that I've been making. The whole reason we're doing this is, I had a fascinating talk with my boss at the start of the year, because one of my little side projects, which I finished recently, is a chapter for Julie Lindsay's new book on global collaboration. And the boss was saying that she views Global Connections as an extension of the school's philosophy, to educate and to raise kids' awareness of the world beyond, their local community. And we are a relatively privileged school, and yet we can, not all of our students have the same level of advantage as some of the ones that go travelling around the world, but we can sort of bring the world into our classrooms, which for many of our teachers is a relatively new concept. But there's little things, like last year we did mystery Skype in year 3, and the classroom teacher and I, we joined about less than a dozen teachers in WA doing mystery Skype. So what we're doing is sort of pushing the boundaries, in terms of a WA context. It's not necessarily very new for other schools around the world, but it's sort of a bit of a shock for our community. But we're getting there. It's going to be a very interesting year ahead, that's for certain.
Sounds like it's going to be full of lots of exciting challenges for you, though.
Oh, yes.
I like that engagement with the digital citizenship, Michael. That's nice. I mean, that's easy for me to throw in, but that's an authentic link with the real world, and for preparing students to become resilient at living in that world, that who are going to take control of things that are kind of using them in ways to make it a better world. Those are really nice conversations to have with the school principal, and I'd like to revisit this and see how you're getting on with it this year.
Well, it'll be good. We've actually explicitly written it into the policy that we want our students to be informed, capable, or safe and responsible digital citizens. We're trying to promote the guided use of technology. And you never know where that leads. Last year we worked with a group of high school students in the United States who set up a charity to raise money to send water filters to Nepal. And to be honest, when I first met the guy, I thought he was a teacher, and he was in his final year of high school. He's now continuing to contribute to the organisation. He's at the University of Kansas. And that was amazing. He was a group of high school students who made the connections with our network. They were Skyping into other countries to teach students. And they actually did it. They raised the money and they were able to purchase and deliver these water filters to Nepal. And that's a very high level example, but if you can students can actually change the world in small ways, or small or large ways, if we give them the space to do it.
That's wonderful.
I was just going to say, Michael, I've seen a few projects where the people involved, and staff at the schools and students and parents and things, get a little bit concerned about who the kids might communicate with in these kinds of environments. And one of the ways I've seen that overcome quite successfully, I don't know if it's an issue for you guys or not, has been through link-ups with sort of retirement homes and groups like that in the area, and not-for-profits, and the kinds of charity type or what's the word I'm after? Anyway, it's those groups that also have something to benefit from a little bit of knowledge about using a lot of these technologies that are out there, and it gives the kids an opportunity to sort of lead those kinds of discussions as well. I don't know if it's something you've thought about, but often, there are a lot of people sitting around who'd love to engage with young kids, and it's a very, very easy way for them to do that kind of thing.
Well, that's something that we may well move towards. At the moment, we only have one teacher in the school who's prepared to experiment with Skype, and that's fine. Different people have different priorities. Although that said, we've actually had a parent come to us last week who wants us to Skype with her daughter's old class in Japan. So we're actually in a situation where we have parents approaching us with potential connections, which is a bit of an extraordinary new experience for me. It took me years to find a school which spoke my language. I didn't expect some of the parents to actually speak it as well.
Probably make the school speak my language.
Well, it took me a very long time to find a place where I could actually experiment, and where that experiment and risk-taking was actively encouraged from top down. And there is a reason why I travel. It's an hour and 20 minutes each way for me to get to work every morning,
That's a great topic for a future hangout, and I reckon that's something we can think about, is taking the big risk, or how to navigate groups through that change storm. I'd like to hear from you guys.
I'd love to hear from people who've managed it before, because it's a steep learning curve for me.
Okay, maybe something we could share later, Bruce, at a future episode. But before we jump into that, I just want to talk to Amanda, because we haven't heard what you've been up to, and clock's ticking, and I'd love to hear something.
I know, and again, I'm multitasking. Can you give me 1 second? I'm just tweeting about Michael, and then I'll come back to talk to me.
Okay.
I'm having a bloke moment and can't multitask.
I think we'll just
open to ideas. We are open to ideas for think about, to talk about, and I'd like to think about some of the issues that you'd like to have on a fireside chat that you'd like us to talk informally about. I reckon change management is one of them, but perhaps there's another that some of our listeners are thinking about. And if you have, just please drop them into the comments on the YouTube feed or onto our discussion group by joining our circle. Love to hear your thoughts. Amanda?
We're always open for ideas, and social coordinators and organisers for us too. That's always on the cards. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, I've actually taken on a couple of classes this year of digital technologies with Year 7 at my school, and this has been really exciting, and I must say I've actually drawn a lot on the conversations that we've had as part of our ACCELN Hangouts over the last few years. And one of the things I actually did was tackle that knowledge and understanding area that was all about, you know, how everything comes from binary, and it was great. And Tim was right. I did have fun teaching binary using a lot of the CS Unplugged resources, so much so that when we were looking at how letters can be displayed in binary, and I was, you know, just calling out all of the bytes for hello, one of my students thought my idea of coming up with a rap all completely done in binary was like totally appropriate, so much so that she was going to go and make said rap during the holidays off her own steam, which was pretty fun. But now what we're moving on to, I've got some robots, which is pretty fun to work with. I don't know if you can see it, but I've called mine the Elsa bot, and I have a little Elsa sticker. Yes, I do sing songs from Frozen in class. Yes, they do find it annoying, but not as annoying as Taylor Swift. Anyway, so I wanted my students to think about what an algorithm is, and my teaching colleague, who's also teaching 7 digital tech, said, oh yeah, I get students to think about how they might make toast and what's the sequence and the order of all of that. So I had to level up that idea with props. So I have a little toaster from my daughter's kitchen and some awesome pieces of toast that I used before, and begged for access to some Play-Doh, yellow for butter, blueberry jam as well, a little knife, and a little plate. And I put all of these props out. I've got students to kind of think out about what are their ideas for the sequence if they were to program Mrs. Rablin, the robot, who wasn't very bright and didn't know lots of commands already, to make toast. And I had some very interesting ideas, and in the second time I did this with a class, one of the students said, oh miss, can we record it and can we put it on YouTube? I'm not sure if it's YouTube ready. Oh wait, it is about to be. But I wanted to show you said video and how long it takes the students to actually begin getting me to move. I'm a very annoying robot indeed for them. So I'm just going to screen share, play my sound through my speakers, and yes, I am wearing a blue and black dress. Yes, it was that day. Weird. Okay. Coming through all right? Fabulous. First instruction. Put the thread in the twist. I don't know how to put next instruction. how to grab. What is toast? Next instruction.
Grab the bread.
I don't know how to grab. What is bread? Next instruction.
Move your arm down each line.
Move my arm. Which arm?
Your right arm.
Next instruction.
Use your light sensor to look for white.
White located. Next instruction.
Use your arm and grab the red thing.
Which arm? How do I move it? Which arm? I don't know how to grab what's a red thing. Next instruction.
Use your left arm.
Next instruction.
Move your right arm up.
Move it up. How far? Next instruction. Yay. Next instruction.
Move right arm down. No, it says here.
Next instruction. Which hand?
Oh, that's nice.
Next instruction.
Move right hand 50 centimeters up.
Next instruction.
Move hand 60 centimeters down.
Next instruction.
Open right hand.
I don't understand open. Next instruction.
Move your fingers. Big and forward. You go grab on the right hand side, middle, and then grab on the left hand.
Okay, so she's giving me specific instructions for all my fingers. That makes it like this.
And then bend it.
And next instruction?
Bend all of your right fingers down.
Next instruction.
Lift right arm up 10 centimeters.
Next instruction.
Use left arm.
I don't understand use. Next instruction.
Move left hand up 10 centimeters.
Next instruction.
Move left hand to the right 20 centimeters.
Next instruction.
Move left hand to the right 5 centimeters.
Next instruction.
Move left hand down 10 centimeters.
Next instruction.
Rotate left hand, go to breathe.
Okay, and we'll stop it there.
Wow. It's almost logo, I reckon.
I know. That's what I felt like when I started saying, I don't understand. It was cracked me up a lot. In the follow-up lesson, I actually said, okay, that was the most annoying robot ever, as Bruce has pointed out. Let's help this robot learn a few things. So we talked about what getting and finding and looking and grabbing and things like that could actually mean. So we could use words like that with this annoying robot. And then we defined all of the objects that they might be looking for, like what does toast look like? Sorry, what does bread look like? What does the toaster look like? And things like that, which was pretty funny. And hopefully they kind of get that automatic feedback without having to code a bit and debug it. I might have pushed it a bit to the extreme just for my own entertainment. Oh no, just because they were ready. It was interesting though, you can kind of tell when they suddenly realize, hang on, this isn't going to work. We need to provide a bit more information, some more instructions. How can we be clear? And then some students weren't quite ready for that, and then there'd be interesting looks from the others around the room to say, hey, no, that's not. Wait, why are you moving that arm? So it's pretty funny.
That's fascinating to see how they're anthropomorphizing. They'll look at computer code now and think of Miss Rablin trying to make a sandwich. That's wonderful, share. Thank you, Amanda. I enjoyed that.
You're most welcome.
Now, just looking at the, I wonder if we should perhaps start to wind up and at next ACC Learning Network broadcast.
Now, I think we're next week we're going to be doing a Saturday morning one instead, and we're just choosing which of our few people are available to go ahead with that session as well. And I'm hoping that maybe in the next 24 hours or so, because it's Roland's turn to do the event, that he'll get that together for us and it'll all be set. So you can check out more information on our ACCE Learning Network page on Google+, or our Wikispaces page, or on Twitter, or wherever else we decide to harass everybody about the stuff that we do. And if you're missing out on the fun, last season we've actually made into a scintillating playlist on YouTube as well, and all of the previous seasons too. So you can relive, I think it was 43 hours worth of fun.
Yeah.
Use that for PD.
Converting it to MP3 files and then uploading it to iTunes. Huge job. And anyone who likes to be a social media manager, and sort of Amanda and I don't have to get distracted by pedaling, because we've got little tiny pedals underneath where we're busy pedaling away with the social media engine to keep that turning with a long chain that connects Melbourne with Brisbane.
Maybe we could use some little bits to connect it together.
Yeah. And I think it'll be a lot of fun, Amanda. And keep your ears peeled. We have got a long weekend coming up in Melbourne, which we're noted for, with Labor Day, and I've got a scout camp. So think of me as I'm somewhere in the bush, no access to 3G, Wi-Fi or phones, but lots of sand flies and beach sand to play with.
That sounds fun. You can share the slideshow next Fireside chat. Now, Bruce and Michael, was there anything else that you wanted to add before we finally close our session tonight?
It's good to be back. I don't know how often I'll be able to come on a Monday, but Saturday one's here more likely.
It may be a little early, so I hope you're an early bird.
Oh, then in that case. So long as I'm not getting peeing at 5 in the morning.
Actually, it will be about 5 in the morning.
Oh God, I'll switch my thing off.
For Bruce, he'll be just stepping in after having had a night out on a Friday, networking with his ACT friends. Just keep the night running, Bruce.
Oh, there's already talk of we've got a big 2-day event, a Google Summit happening later in this month, and a couple of kids at my school have come to me to say they'd really like me to supervise the Relay for Life, which is the same weekend. And when I said to them, oh, I'm busy on the Saturday and Sunday, their response was, I'll do the night shift. So start at 10 p.m. and go through to 6 a.m. on the Saturday and then the Sunday. So I don't know if I've got it in me to pull a 40-hour stint, but I don't know. I could be up for the challenge. We'll have to see.
Looking forward to
Is Monday a school day after that?
It is, yes.
Pass.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to catching up with you then.
Excellent. All right. It's been good to catch up.
Yeah, nice to chat again, guys. I missed it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good to reconnect.
Now, you've been listening to the ACCE Learning Network.